The New York Liberty will have one of the most interesting free agencies in the WNBA.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, welcome into Locked On Women's Basketball. My name's Kalia Butler. Joined alongside me is Sophia Jones. We have some more free agency talk to go over today. Before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so we've gone through a majority of the league so far. We still have to go over the reigning champions, the Las Vegas Aces. We got to cover the Minnesota Lynx and kind of just what they experienced this season, what their offseason could look like. But I say that the New York Liberty is going to have one of the most interesting free agencies because of A, how many players are available, and B, that they fired Sandy Brondello, and she is now with the Toronto Tempo. So to go over just who are free agents for the New York Liberty right now, Breanna Stewart's going to be unrestricted. Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquil Jones, Natasha Cloud, Kennedy Burke, Isabel Harrison, Emma Mieseman, Stephanie Talbot, Rebecca Gardner. Those are going to be reserve players. But when you're looking at those unrestricted players, when you have your core basically of Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquil Jones, Natasha Cloud coming in and making a really significant impact. The Liberty will more than likely core one of those players. They could probably core either Ionescu or Cloud, but under current CBA rules, they can't core Breanna Stewart or Jonquil Jones. And after you just fired Sandy Brondello, the most winningest coach in the franchise, I don't have high hopes that a lot of them will want to come back.
Even in that post-game interview where that reporter asked Sandy Brondello, Sabrina Ionescu, and Breanna Stewart about Sandy Brondello's future being the head coach of the New York Liberty, Sabrina and Stewie looked appalled at the question. And then they voiced their support and their admiration for Sandy Brondello. So that's not something easy, especially when as a player and you're looking at the general manager making these decisions where, hey, you just fired my head coach, me as a player who I really valued them. Where do you see me then? And so that is going to be a very interesting situation to watch unfold. But their general manager, Jonathan Kolb, he used the words evolution and innovation to basically justify not continuing with Sandy Brondello. And if you're going to preach these words of evolution and innovation, it would be really surprising to me if you then continue to have pretty much the same exact roster that you have and we don't see any major shakeups.
I think that's interesting too, because you bring up such a great point that if you're saying that you want this evolution and that you've been, even after winning a championship, that you were already considering moving past Sandy Brondello, even though she is the coach that brought you the championship, and obviously retaining a majority of the same team, to argue that, oh, it was just a coaching problem, but we're going to keep the exact same team, it would contradict itself. But that is kind of what he has been saying, because he mentioned in an exit interview that he has the utmost confidence that Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and Jonquil Jones will be back. So it doesn't make a lot of sense because on one hand, you're firing Sandy Brondello, who brought you the championship, with those players. On the second hand, you're saying that they're going to come back, but it's not that realistic for them to come back. And as you mentioned, we all saw that that exit interview, and they looked baffled that Sandy was even leaving. And especially a player like Breanna Stewart, I feel like this would be one of the most difficult decisions for her, truthfully, because she really is the face of the New York Liberty. So it's either you stay here, you maintain your franchise player name, but now you no longer have a coach that you had so much respect for and who has really guided you to where you are right now within the league, being at that franchise. I don't know. I think I'm so conflicted by that. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's just so many confusing aspects of it because they don't have a lot of options when it comes to any rookie contracts. There's not a lot of players on contract right now that are going to be staying throughout the 2026 season. So you have to rely on that free agency, but you're also having to rely on certain players coming back. So you either completely deconstruct your roster and kind of start over if this is the vision that you have, or you just hope and pray that they're all okay with returning and you just have to like add some new additions to it. But it's not looking that way for them.
I agree. Even if you take a look at just the roster, especially that starting five, they have some of the best talent in the WNBA. They can compete against anyone. We've seen that before. And they have a lot of depth as well. When you look at a Kenny Burke, who usually comes off the bench, Izzy Harrison, Steph Talbot, Maureen Johannes, players like that. Even a player who was out this past season, Benijah Laney Hamilton, who I thought they really missed in terms of their depth, that perimeter size and defender. She had a meniscus injury during Unraveled, so that's why she missed the season. But especially when, again, just bringing up that injury, the injury bug really got to the Liberty. Jonquel Jones, she was out. Breanna Stewart missed some time, a couple of days here and there between Sabrina, Natasha Cloud, and Kennedy Burke. Phoebus was out for Eurobasket. And so the group never really had time to actually play with each other. Their primary starting lineup only played together 12 times. And then Stewart, Ionescu, and Jones only started and ending 13 games together. The Liberty won all of those 13 games. And so I feel like when you look at not only what this group has done, but even still the potential of it, and then to get rid of Sandy Brondello, who was a part of that group as well, it's just it really is interesting to trying to understand that logic and how the Liberty are going to navigate this moving forward, because again, I would be so shocked if there's no kinds of shakeups, really.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when speaking about some players that, obviously that they're trying to bring back, aside from Breanna Stewart, Sabrina, Jonquel Jones, they mentioned that they want to find some more backcourt depth to help Sabrina. And I think you brought up a good point too, where Laney Hamilton she's 6 feet tall. She can shoot the ball. She has great length. And she's just another ball handler as well for them. I do think her presence was really missed this season because she was kind of that support system with Sabrina. Sabrina's not necessarily, she is not a traditional point guard. Obviously, she is going to shoot the lights out of the ball if she is in her rhythm. But I think when you have an additional ball handler and maybe finding another true point guard for this team as well, just to put certain players within their respective spots, obviously has worked well for them. And you've seen, as you mentioned, them compete against the best of the best. But I think if you have somebody that can construct that offense a little bit more and really just orchestrate things, it might be useful for them. I think Emma Miesemann was a really good pickup as well when you're thinking of just more interior depth. She's another player that has fantastic footwork. She can protect the rim. I thought she worked well alongside, when you're thinking of Breanna Stewart, when you're thinking of Jonquel Jones, when you have a lot of size on this team already, they weren't necessarily conflicting with each other. They were moving well together. I thought she was a good pickup. I think she would be really important to try and bring back as well. And even Natasha Cloud, when, again, kind of speaking of those point guard abilities, I thought she stepped in and did fantastic this season. But yeah, again, another unrestricted free agent that you don't know if she's going to stick around or not. So kind of prioritizing some of those positions.
Yeah, and specifically for Natasha Cloud, when you talk about wanting someone in the backcourt for Sabrina, Natasha Cloud, she's a great facilitator, also great defender. So those are two areas that she can kind of pick up the slack a little bit for Ionescu that I think worked out really well when they were, again, both healthy. But you look at hopefully trying to keep Natasha Cloud, and then I would hope that they also have Izzy Harrison as well. But then you just go down the entire roster, and it's like, why not keep everyone? Because this team still is really good. It's just a matter of the question and this evolution and innovation mindset and wanting to bring in quote unquote a freshness and energy to the group.
This looks like one of the freshest and energetic teams that I have seen. I think a lot of it just trickled down to injury, and now they no longer have their head coach. But we will see what they do in this offseason. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Lynx free agency. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Minnesota having a little bit of a disappointing season. We know after the 2024 finals that they're like, this is our comeback season. We lost to the Liberty in 5. It really came down to the wire, but unfortunately this was a team that was at the top for all of the regular season. Clear winner. I'm even seeing stuff now of of people saying that they're going to be the clear winner for 2026. We don't even know what the 2026 season is going to look like. But again, a little bit of a disappointing season, definitely a disappointing ending per se for the Minnesota Lynx. When we're looking at some of the free agents they have, Kayla McBride is going to be one, Dejanay Carrington, Napheesa Collier, Courtney Williams, Alana Smith, Natisha Heidemann, Bridget Carlton, and Jessica Shepard are all going to be unrestricted free agents. Looking at that list, Napheesa Collier will more than likely stay. Kayla McBride is another player I feel will more than likely stay. She has made it very clear that she loves this team, and this has been one of the best locker rooms that she's ever been a part of. I think when you're looking at the rest of the list, Dejanay Carrington was obviously coming in a little bit later into their season, but before she got injured, had really brought a little bit of a spark for them. Like she gave a good late push, but curious as to a Courtney Williams and a Natisha Heidemann. I believe one of them will leave. But do you break up the stud buds? That's the real question. If one of them leaves, is it a 2-for-1 special? That's the real question here, because they have created a brand outside of the WNBA, obviously within it as well, but they've created this brand where if one of them leaves, I truly believe the other one will go with. I don't know.
No, like it's the two of them. They're the buds. They both have the pink hair. I think Courtney Williams, she shaved her head recently, but during season it was them two, pink hair. And that is just a duo because Courtney Williams, of course, she would start off the team for the Lynx and get them going. If she was hot, she would stay in. But there were a couple of times towards the end of the season where Natisha Hyman was coming off the bench and kind of taking some of her minutes and
Mhm.
just going on a tear. She had a stretch where I believe 3 games to close the regular season where she just continued to set new career highs in points for herself. But to your point, that would be an incredibly tough duo to break up, if not for their basketball production, which I think is still very high, but the cultural significance and what they mean to the city of Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota, because they don't have any other basketball teams, I guess. But I mean, when you can have your entire crowd just having pink bobs for one of the last games of the regular season, that's a different level of support. And I think it goes to also show the whole group as well. For the playoffs, every single one of them had either full pink hair or a little bit of pink hair. I think Kayla McBride, she had pink tips, or Dejanay Carrington, the end of her hair was dyed a little bit of pink as well. So that's just, again, the buy-in. Going back to what you said about Kayla McBride, where she was just in tears after the Minnesota Lynx got eliminated from the playoffs post game, and she said she's been here 5 years and to be so close. You just want it for the people that grind with you every day. In pro sports, it doesn't get any better than what we have in our locker room, and I feel like those are really strong words and in great juxtaposition to the New York Liberty, who I would anticipate there being some shakeup. I would be shocked if the Minnesota Lynx do anything drastic, because again, if Nafisa Collier didn't get hurt, if Dejanay Carrington didn't get hurt, where would this team have ended up?
You know, the NBA may have the Minnesota Timberwolves, but the WNBA has the Stud Buds. So, like, truthfully, there's no comparison there. But in all seriousness, you're exactly right. If Nafisa Collier didn't get hurt, oh my gosh, I was sick when she got hurt, because this really seemed like they were going to win the finals. This was one of their best bets to do it. Not saying that's not a possibility next season, but the core group that they had this season really could have made that finals push. Would they have had a difficult time against the Aces? I'm sure, but it wouldn't have been surprising if they were able to win the finals this season. But when you're thinking of some additions that they could possibly have, as you mentioned, and it's kind of similar to the Liberty, the team is good. It's just like you don't really need to switch up that much. I think with the Lynx and the Liberty, they unfortunately just had injuries at really awful times, and those injuries were to some of their best players. But when you think of even like an Alana Smith, who had come in and she was a co-defensive player of the year, you don't really want to get rid of your co-defensive player of the year. You're not getting rid of Nafisa Collier. I think addition-wise, you can maybe look to have a little bit more size on the interior. Obviously, Nafisa is a little bit undersized for her position, but it's not like she ever makes it seem like that's a problem for her. But still, maybe you just want to add a little depth in that area. But I do think a point guard is going to be really key for the Lynx as well, because we saw how much they did rely on a Courtney Williams to move the ball around, how much they relied on Heidemann to come in off the bench and, take those minutes after Courtney and again, facilitate. Nafisa can come in, and obviously she does fantastic at facilitating for her teammates as well. But in the position that she is in, I think a true point guard and just having depth in that position is always going to be a really big priority for the Lynx. So again, that also does go down to, do they keep Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann? Do they leave? Do they have to bring in another point guard? That's going to be the biggest aspect for them. But other than that, it's just like you look at the team and it's like, this is a great group. It's just, you got to see it all the way through and without injury, unfortunately.
Exactly. And that's why our lineup on the graphic here says that the Lynx should be desperate this season, because I think if it doesn't happen this upcoming season for them to win a title with this group, then they got to consider really shaking some things up. But to your point, again, Courtney Williams has said that she's not a true point guard. She grew up playing shooting guard a little bit more. So adding a little bit more of a true facilitator could potentially be beneficial with Heidemann in that one position as well. And with the interior size, I'll be very interested to see what the Minnesota Lynx do with Dorka Juhas. She was she's been a part of their roster. She's contracted with them. She just missed this recent season because of, quote, Plans to rest and recover after playing year-round for the last 2 years, which makes sense. These schedules are very arduous. She's currently competing for Galatasaray in EuroLeague and the Turkish league, so she's still getting those reps in, but she would provide a lot of that size again and just extra depth. I think when you look at these teams that are really, really good with their top end talent, if you can just add more pieces surrounding them, again, role players, depth, and for Dorka, she was all rookie in 2023. She would provide more of that interior size.
Maybe the third time is a charm when it comes to the Minnesota Lynx and trying to maintain this group. But when we're talking about depth, we're going to jump into the Las Vegas Aces and what they're going to do with their depth in this free agency.
If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SAS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnba. That's rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free.
Okay, so now it's time to get into our reigning champions, the Las Vegas Aces, coming off their 2025 WNBA championship. Where's my tambourine? This is my tambourine for A'ja Wilson. When you're thinking at another team, and I feel like this is just kind of funny for these teams that we're talking about in particular today, because we don't have many notes for that. Like, not a bunch where the rosters are fantastic. Like, when you're speaking of those top players on this team, you have A'ja Wilson. You have A'ja Wilson. Like, what else are you going to do? You're not getting rid of her. You have Jackie Young. You have Chelsea Gray. It's hard to think that they're going to get rid of any of those players anytime soon. But when we're taking a look at the unrestricted free agents, Jackie Young, Jewell Loyd, A'ja Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Kia Stokes, Megan Gustafson, and Dana Evans. So what I mentioned before we had gone into our ad break is some of the depth of this team. I think they showed up a lot when it came to the finals. When we're thinking of the consistency for them, maybe that's where the Aces shake some things up. Obviously, Jewell Loyd came in, but it's clear that Jewell isn't necessarily who she was when she was with the Seattle Storm. She just is a little bit of a different player at this moment. But then you think of Dana Evans, who came in and had a really hot streak during the finals as well. She played some key minutes throughout their post All-Star break run that they had as well. But I think when you're looking for a little bit more consistency in some of your depth, maybe that's where you try and pick and pull a couple of people within those guard positions. And even when we're looking interior wise, obviously A'ja Wilson is at the helm of all of that. But you bring in an Alyssa Smith, who clearly added a lot of valuable minutes as well. Kia Stokes and A'ja Wilson didn't have that same rhythm at the beginning of the season that we saw her and Smith have. But you also have a Kirsten Bell on the team, who's going to be a restricted free agent. But when you're looking, to me, who was the most valuable coming in, helping A'ja in those spots, was NaLyssa Smith. I thought they fed off of each other really well. But Sophia, in your opinion, what areas do you think that the Aces could try to move some pieces around in this offseason?
To your point, it would just be kind of in those role added depth players. It's difficult though because each and every one of them did such a great job stepping up when they needed to. Talk about Dana Evans' performance in the finals and playoffs, Nalissa Smith, who's going to be a restricted free agent. I think that it will definitely be a point of emphasis to keep her because of how well she played with Asia in that lineup and gave them another option down low in the paint. So even a Kirsten Bell, who's restricted free agent, when Juloy moved to the bench, it was Kirsten Bell that took that starter's position. And she was the one that, I mean, she wasn't really getting doing the Greg Popovich pulling after 10 seconds. No, she was in there holding it down as
Mhm.
she needed to. So players like that, even like a Kia Stokes, who gets put in for the last 10 seconds of the game just to play defense. And you know what? She played defense and got stopped. So
Mhm.
it's just very interesting to see how they're gonna navigate some of these role players, some of the depth, because when you're looking at the core and top end talent. I think Asia Wilson at the top, and then Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Jewel Lloyd. Those are the players that you definitely do want to keep. I
Mhm.
also will say Jewel Lloyd is the second highest paid player on the team right now. And with more contracts being up, more salary caps being discussed with this new CBA, that might be adjusted a little bit as well. I mean, I think that's a great problem to have though, when there's more money going around and you got to figure out how to navigate and allocate it.
It is funny that you bring it up too, because Asia Wilson is technically the third highest paid player on this team. And I think everybody would anticipate her to be the first, obviously. Jackie Young is actually the highest paid player for the Aces, but obviously we know Asia is making money outside of the WNBA, so she is more than fine. But you bring up a good point with that as well, where when we're thinking of all of these teams and we're thinking of the moves that they're going to make in the offseason and during free agency. And again, we keep bringing up these expansion teams too, but they are going to play a really vital role in how some of these rosters look as well this upcoming season. But right now, players don't know what money is actually on the table. And if you're a player that is like a Jewel Lloyd, and you're already the second highest paid player on the Aces, if more is offered, yeah, you're going to feel much more comfortable staying with the Aces unless somebody else offers you a significant sum to come over. But she's made it clear that she had found her love for basketball again, moving from the Storm to the Aces. I see her staying. I see a majority of them staying. But when we're looking at some of the other pieces, if players don't know how much money is really going to be on the table and you're an unrestricted free agent, you're kind of open to everyone at that point. You don't know what the cap is going to be for all of these teams. I could assume Aces wise, they'll have more room to work with. But still it's going to be a part of who do you really get rid of, or who doesn't want to stay. You have Aaliyah Nye, who's really like the only rookie player on the team that is contracted through 2026. So she obviously has no other choice but to stay, but she looks more than happy to be there. But again, you have Jackie Young, you have Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, not that she's old by any means, but she is getting older. But even still, it's really hard to find anybody that is more point guard savvy and more clutch than she is in the free agent market right now. So it seems like they'll probably be pretty consistent. But if you just want a championship, I mean, clearly something was working.
Exactly. And it's going to be interesting to see how some of these players orchestrate the new CBA, especially with these new expansion teams where there is more open roster space and opportunity. Because I think of a player like Dana Evans, who really proved herself and increased her stock this past season, especially during the playoffs. Could she be tempted to go after more money, or does she want to stay and maybe take a little less and win a championship? One of my me and my father's favorite things to quote is David West saying, "The Egyptians taught us that you can't take your money with you." And he said that in the locker room as they're popping champagne after the Golden State Warriors won the NBA championship, essentially because he took a pay cut to be a part of the championship team. And so
Mhm.
I'm wondering if more of these WNBA players might follow that mindset, especially the way and the fashion that the Las Vegas Aces won their title this year, it's got to mean a lot. And for a player like Dana Evans, who came from the Chicago Sky, and that was a slower season, to then winning the title, that's got to be a sweet taste.
I think for Dana Evans, too, when you just speak about a player who had really increased their stock, she was part of that 2021 championship team for the Chicago Sky, but that was part of her rookie year. So, she comes in, she contributes where she can, but that's a team that's also led by Candace Parker, Kalia Copper. Like, you're not necessarily going to come in your rookie season and make a lot of momentum or really help out too much in that position. But she also saw what it took to win. I think she was able to, stay with the Sky for a little bit, carry that over to Vegas, and was able to get a championship out of it. But she also really proved to everyone that no matter that she's a little bit undersized, that she was just as valuable on that roster as anyone else. So very curious to see what she will do. You bring up a great point. Will she want to take a pay cut and win another championship potentially? Or is she like, actually, yesterday's price is not tomorrow's price. I'm going somewhere else. I think that's the reality for some of the Aces players, really. But when you have a leader like Asia on the team, I think a lot of people rally behind her and Becky Hammon. So it will probably look pretty consistent for this 2026 season too.
Yeah, it would really be hard to imagine it not being the same, honestly. There's so many unrestricted free agents, but I mean, having a coach like Becky Hammon, having the facilities like the Las Vegas Aces do, those are major incentives.
Exactly. Well, we will be back tomorrow to talk to you about some more teams that we haven't just covered yet when it comes to our free agency. But thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Women's Basketball. We will see